Noocracy, the power of the wise. It is a form of government where decisions are made by the most intelligent people. This type of government solves many democracies' problems. Voters are irrational. Democracy is susceptible to bad policies because politicians would prefer to implement the policy decisions of citizens to win elections without thinking about actual content and consequences of these policies. Average citizen doesn't have enough expertise to participate in politics, but noocracy has obvious flaws. The idea that wise people would make most rational decisions instead of those that benefit them is not realistic. Also, it is not clear how the most wise people are chosen. One of the forms of noocracy is the voting system, where number of votes is based on education level. This system has obvious flaw that the winner of the elections is much likely to be the one whose policies are going to benefit more educated and wealthy citizens. Futuristic. Vote on values but bet on beliefs. The main idea is instead of voting for politicians, we should vote for measures of national welfare. For example, it can be GDP or some measure of equality. We would also have free market, where individuals can bet on whether adopted policies would be beneficial for achieving the elected measure of welfare. When the market estimate of welfare conditional on adopting a policy is higher than the estimate conditional on non-adoption, that proposal becomes law. The futuristic is based on the idea that free market is the consensus of informed individuals. But there is a lot of criticism of futuristic. For example, Goodhart's law states that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Gerontocracy, the power of the old. In some form, this type of government exists nowadays in countries where leaders are much older than most of the population. But the main idea is that in the future, science will allow humans to live much longer, hundreds or thousands of years. Then, all the power will be in the hands of the oldest people because they had a lot of time to acquire wealth and connections. The advantage of this type of government is that people who lived longer have more knowledge and experience, so they should be better leaders. But in reality, it is obviously not always true. Also, gerontocracy can be a big obstacle for progress. Liquid democracy. The idea of liquid democracy is to combine elements of direct democracy and representative democracy. Every individual has a choice to either be a delegate who can vote for himself or give their individual vote to a trusted delegate. An individual can choose their delegate based on anything they feel like, for example, economic situation or common interests. This type of government solves the problem that most people don't have enough knowledge to make right decision, or they are just not interested. But for this system to work, it is important to ensure that votes aren't passed to a delegate through coercion or bribes. Autocracy of AI. The government is replaced by a single AI that makes all the decisions. This allows to solve many problems that come from people's flaws, such as strive for power, status, and money. The problem with AI is that it isn't clear what exactly it should try to maximize. We still need a voting to decide the measure of welfare. Also, there is still human factor in form of people that created it and could try to use it for their own benefit. Democratic world government. There is only one country in the world. The main advantage of this type of government is that it can end wars, genocides, and other human conflicts. The process of globalization is going rapidly, so it is logical to assume that humanity will come to this form of government at some point. But nation-states are still incredibly hesitant to give up sovereignty. Also, it strips people from their choice. We can assume there would be more unhappy people with one government compared to 20 different governments they can freely choose from. The polystate. It is the opposite of world government. The main idea is to allow every individual to choose freely which laws he agrees to. The nations wouldn't have any geographical boundaries, and traditional geostates would be replaced by polystates. This concept seems very appealing on paper, but in practice, it is difficult to implement. For example, what if the polystate I choose doesn't allow possession of guns, while the guy in my workplace chooses the polystate that allows it? In this situation, polystate system doesn't make sense at all. Demarchy. It is the form of government in which the state is governed by randomly selected individuals from the pool of eligible citizens. There also would be dozens of randomly selected groups, each dealing with a different function. It solves common democracy's problems of corruption and low level of public's participation. The main objection to this system is that random people are not well informed to make their decisions directly. Technocracy, the power of experts. The decision makers are selected based on their expertise in a given area of responsibility, particularly with regard to scientific or technical knowledge. In its purest form, technocracy should treat government as any other engineering problem. The main reasoning for the technocracy is that decision makers should be selected based on their knowledge and performance in a given domain, rather than charisma, social networking, and popularity. Critics state two main problems. It is undemocratic and disregards the will of people. In practice, knowledge of the experts can be not as good as experiential knowledge dispersed among the public. Corporatocracy. The government is a big corporation. The system is the same as in normal company, with board of directors and managers. Corporations are generally more effective and produce better results than traditional bureaucratic governments. But better results come at expense of ignoring other important functions of government, such as justice and equity. Corporatocracy isn't incentivized to increase equality or reduce unemployment rate. Cyberocracy. Cyberocracy rules by the effective use of the information. It is antithesis to bureaucracy. The main feature is the rapid transmission of relevant information from source of a problem to the people in a position to solve this problem. The human's influence is reduced to a minimum. Humans are only used for unusual problems and for appeals. It is highly possible that cyberocracy may use AIs, leading to formation of autocracy of AI at some point. Uniocracy, a completely hypothetical type of government that needs a lot of scientific progress. The world is ruled by a singularity of all human minds connected via some form of telepathy, acting as a form of supercomputer to make decisions based on shared experiences to deliver fair decisions to problems. It can really solve most of the problems of other forms of governments, but it is debatable if this technology will ever be possible. Post-apocalyptic hunter-gatherers. There is a possibility that some kind of catastrophic event, such as war or pandemic, will force us to revert to Paleolithic politics. Governments will cease to exist, and humans will live in a small tribes, seeking out an existence by hunting and foraging. The next video is going to be the best one yet. Subscribe so you don't miss it.